Hello, everybody. It's your girl, Delrisha. I am back with another conversation, another epic conversation. We have a very special guest today. So I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes to give folks the opportunity to go ahead and log on. We got some folks on now. Hello, y'all. Welcome. So right now we're streaming this conversation in 3 different places: Instagram, YouTube, as well as Facebook. You can go ahead and follow Epic Conversations on all the platforms. It's spelled EPEC.conversations with an S. Epic stands for Everyday People, Extraordinary Circumstances. And we're telling human stories of passion, trauma, triumph, and resilience. And today we have a really exciting conversation with one of my friends in business, one of my sisters in DEI, and an Olympian, okay, Gilda Montenegro-Fix. And so I'm excited to go ahead and welcome her to this conversation. But before we do that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, without further ado. So today's guest, I'm going to go ahead and read her bio before I invite her on this platform. Gilda Montenegro-Fix is a Costa Rican woman, mother, wife, adventurous world traveler, and global citizen. She represented her country in not 1, but 2 Olympic Games, first Barcelona in 92 and Atlanta in 96, in the sport of whitewater slalom kayak. Okay, being the only woman out of all Latin American countries to compete in this discipline. This Olympic experience was a culmination of 10 years of outdoor leadership work. Gilda studied psychology at the University of Costa Rica. She worked as a bilingual, bicultural family advocate with multicultural low-income families for 10 years in Hawaii and Oregon, and is also a certified medical interpreter and translator. Now, Gilda does a lot of this work in DEI. We're going to talk to her about what her journey has been leading up to this point. She is the founder and CEO of Celebrate Diversity, a cultural agility consulting and training company. And she is sought after to provide inspiring and motivational keynotes at conferences and other large convenings. Her training and consulting in cultural agility, including equity, diversity, and inclusion, which we love here, are enhanced by her background and certifications in trauma-informed care, adverse childhood experiences, vicarious trauma, etc., etc. She is a leadership mogul, a woman of color leading in this work, and there is so much more that she has to share with us about not just her journey, her personal development journey, but also where she is taking people in her professional work. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and welcome my friend and colleague, Gilda, to the stage. Hey, girl, hey.
Thank you so much, Delrisha. This is fabulous. So glad to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. So first, just high level, before we get into the details, just tell the people who are just meeting you for the first time a little bit about who you are.
I want to say, first of all, thank you to you for this opportunity, and thank you to my friends and family who are actually tuning in from faraway places and who may be catching this when we show it afterwards as a recording. I really, really appreciate the support. And who I am a Costa Rican woman who doesn't seem to get enough and just keeps thinking of new things and new ways to show up in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we get to go through a few of the things that I've done. And just really the nutshell, I think, in my life right now is the recognition of what we bring as human beings to life, to the world, how needed we are, and that for us to show up fully is the only way to go.
Yeah. So for folks who are just listening, we got Osiris Montenegro on the chat. Hey. For folks who are just tuning in, Gilda and I actually connected with each other through another network. So last year I made it my intention. So in 2020, I started a business on accident. I started a business because I wrote an article about something that I cared about that apparently resonated with other people who reached out to me to have me do some consulting work with them. It was the first time I ever had to organize myself to provide a resource or a solution to somebody. And so that was the beginning of what is now Equity Erudition, which is my racial equity leadership development consulting firm. And so Gilda and I have a lot of similarities. And so that's the first piece. So maybe about 3 years into the business, I was at a point where I was like, you know what? I need more. The business was running me. Okay. It wasn't me running the business. The business was running me, right? Where I was just on this rat race of feeling like I needed to produce and produce and produce and get on social media and write the blogs and manage the website and get the clients and follow up and secure the, you know what I'm saying? It was just crazy, crazy. So last year, I said, you know what? I told myself that last year was going to be the year that I decided that I was going to like really approach my business in a different way. So I stopped altogether. If you go to my Instagram right now on my business page, you'll see nothing probably from like the past 2 years, right? I said, I'm not, there's no efforts there. So I decided that I was going to go and invest in myself by putting myself in rooms with other women, with other business people, men and women, and gender nonconforming folks who cared about what I cared about, whether it was the creative part of it, whether it was industry part of it, whether it was collaborating or literally just business development. So that brought me to a conference in Puerto Rico where I met Hilda, and we both invested in a coaching program to help people really who are on a similar journey as both of us, like growing
Yes.
their businesses, developing their businesses, and making them sustainable. And so I'm just so happy to be developing my relationship with Hilda as well, not just because of the all the ways in which we're similar, but also I just think it's so important to just be in community with folks who know where you're going, who get the journey, and who can provide that kind of that extra support. And so that's how we know each other.
Yes, and can I just add to that, Delrisha, that both of us have a background in equity, diversity, and inclusion, and are aware of the inequities that exist in the world. And I think that we both have spent time working on that. And to me, the business coaching and the focus on minorities and uplifting minorities makes perfect sense with what I
Mhm.
have been doing for the last 8 years, which had to do with raising awareness of that inequity and helping educate people on what they can do to make things better, to create the world that we want to see. But this
Mhm.
side of uplifting people that have experienced marginalization just fits. It just makes sense. And then to be in a community of women who because we are women, or because we're women of color, or LGBTQ, or any of those reasons, may have experienced marginalization but have turned it around to make it a strength, to say, I know what that is about and I know what to do about it. And so
That's
coming
right.
together in a group as powerful as what brought us together seems to be really the way to go. And I'm super excited
Right.
that we share that.
1,000,000%. Thank you so much. We got some folks on tuning in on YouTube. Jorna, hello there. Phil, hey Phil, Phil from Philly. So happy to have y'all in the room. Okay, so let's get right into it. So tell me a little bit about. So you've experienced whew, quite a deal of loss. And, it's so interesting because when we hopped on the call just last week, when I was actually sitting there and talking to you, I'm like, man, to have that kind of resilience. And I know a thing or two about loss as well, but in a different kind of form and more of like a trauma form, loss of childhood in that kind of
Hmm.
regard, right? But you've experienced like loss from people that you should be nurtured by really in a perfect world, like forever, right? And so I want to know a little bit more about your upbringing.
Right.
Um, Talk to me about just your growing up and how, what kind of environment did you grow up in? Who raised you? How did Hilda, what are the early stages of Hilda's upbringing?
Yes. It's a story that is probably good enough for a book because it's long, but I'm going to go with the super short version. So my parents were from Costa Rica, and I was born in Costa Rica along with my siblings, five of us total. And we were, in our early years, raised by these two loving parents that instilled a lot of great values in us. We moved early on. When I was 6 years old, we moved to Ecuador. And then my father died in a car accident when we were in Ecuador when I was 8 years old. So that was the first big loss in my life. And, we came back to Costa Rica. Then we moved to Mexico and lived there for 4 years. We moved to Spain and lived there for 2 years. So change was a constant and a really interesting part of my life, because actually I really enjoyed it already at that point. And now I see it as an even greater strength, that ability to see different people in different places, different cultures, and yet the commonalities. My mother passed away when I was 18, and that was a big blow because, at 18 as a young woman, I really was looking forward to having a friendship with my mom and not just being her daughter, right? So that was really hard at the time. And again, I feel like um, it gave me a perspective that is really hard to comprehend if you haven't had a close, personal loss. And in the moment, when you asked me how I felt as if my bones had left my body. I felt like disoriented, no clarity of direction. In the moment, it was so devastating. And yet, I remember my older sister saying, you're gonna be happy one day, you're gonna have a family. And I just couldn't believe her at the time because it really didn't feel like that was true at that moment. And yet it has become true. It has become true that I have now my own family. And we'll go into that as well, because that's another point that touches with the loss of my mom, becoming a mom myself. But it has been this journey. And I recently posted about my mom's passing because it was her birthday only a couple of weeks ago, that it has been a journey of grief and also awareness as to what came because of that. And what came in my case was I became very independent because I had to be, right? I had to function and I had to respond. And my older sister and brothers moved, and I stayed with my younger sister. And then, we moved to our own apartment, and just having to function in life and go to college and work and run a household at the age of 19, 20 was different from what I grew up with and what I maybe would have expected. When you're young, like you said, you think your parents are going to be there and your life has kind of got this chart that you imagine, but then it went very differently. And now I can say I am really grateful. I'm really grateful that I had somehow been instilled those values and that resilience, that when the challenges came, I was able to just show up and be strong, become stronger than I thought I was, and keep showing up to life and discovering and reconnecting to the joy.
How many siblings do you have, Gilda?
So we are 5 altogether. I have 2 brothers, one of whom is on watching and from Norway, and one sister in Colorado, one sister in England. So
okay, and where do you fall in the line of
I'm the 4th.
Okay, so you're like one of the babies, the second to last.
Yes.
Okay. So when your mother passed away, who took care of you during that transition?
For a short time, we stayed with my stepfather, but he really wasn't taking care of us. He was kind of taking care of himself, and we were just cohabitating in the house where we were for just 1 year. And then we went to visit my brothers in the US, and that's when they decided that we probably should go to Costa Rica to be with my aunties, my mom's sisters. So at that point, they thought, they would be able to help take care of us. But again, I was 19 by then. So my mom died when I was 18. By the time I went to the US, I was 19. And so we went to Costa Rica, and each one of us lived with one of my mom's 2 sisters. But pretty soon after that, we decided to move in together into our own apartment and just do our thing. And my sister is 3 years younger. Yeah, my little sister. So she was still finishing high school. So there was, a little bit of that time of, making sure or supporting her in completing her high school, and then launch off she came to the US to go to college. So
Yeah, you talk like, even in just hearing you talk, there are several of my friends who have lost their parents describe the loss of a mother in the same way. So I just want to highlight this for folks who may be listening. They describe it as feeling directionless, feeling like this, like a hole, like a part of your identity is gone, and not knowing like when that hole will be replaced, or if it'll ever be full again.
right.
And I've also heard people describe themselves as untethered, like just not connected to anything with the loss of their mother, like not feeling
Yeah.
like they have any true sense of purpose. Did you feel those things? I know you kind of alluded to that a little bit.
Some of that. And I think that right away I felt like my structure that held me up, like my bones were gone. I felt like, what holds me up? But I think that was really a short time. But the untethered part, or the disorientation, I think to a degree, because like I said, my older siblings went to other countries. More to the story about why that happened, but we don't need to get into that here. So it was definitely this like, okay, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? But I believe that because of the way that our parents raised us, for example, I knew I wanted to study psychology since I was 14. I was clear, and that was a goal. It's like I was on that track. I was going to do that, you know? So those are the things that then sustained me when the time came to be alone with my sister in an apartment, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. It was like that knowledge that I had made that decision and I was going to go do that. And also, my dad, I think, instilled in us, both of them, a really strong and high work ethic that, you know, just how we conduct ourselves in the world, that was not a question anymore at that point, in terms of being honest, working hard, which I now like to work smart better than hard. But, you know, at that time, it was like all these things that you do.
Grind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was gonna ask too, like, what do you remember about both of your parents, and what have they left with you? So it sounds like definitely grit and the work ethic. What
Yes.
else would
And
you say
just
they
a
left?
lot of love. You know, I think that because we felt secure in that love, or I'm going to speak for myself, I felt very secure in the container that they built, right? So I think that that is what has carried me. I think that a lot of my strength now comes from that, from being, you know, raised with respect and love and honesty. Like those were the things that were around. And I think that sometimes people who are in situations where that's not the case can find that in mentors or other relatives, an auntie, an uncle, a grandma, right? So I think there's always light somewhere, even in the darkest circumstances. Somebody is going to be there that can help you, that can lend a hand or sustain you in some way. You know, so for me right now, for example, having fellow coaches and my friend Jordan, my brother here, like that gives me strength. And I know I have other friends that are probably watching or will watch later. That warms my heart, knowing that I am connected and I am supported, and people have my back, as well as I learned also later in life to have my own back, which is another thing. But I think that
Yeah,
those are the things.
there's
Yeah,
so much to be said about, when you are somebody who hasn't had that kind of like adult companionship at a young age. Because, and even though you were 18, like, so much of like parenting comes like in the early adulthood, right? Like, you got to navigate this life as a grown up. And so,
totally.
like,
And
I
then,
went to college at 17, but I still had to parent myself. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
Like, that process.
yes,
So, I
yes.
feel like there's so much to be said about building and curating your own community, which I'm an expert at now because I've had to do it since I was so young.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I
so
was just
talk,
going to jump into the parenting part because,
yeah.
when I had my son, which was when I was 38, and I'm jumping ahead a few years, I'm aware, but it's connected to this, what you just said about the parenting and sort of parenting ourselves. And when we need to do that, that was the time, I think. So I felt in my adult life that I was, doing really well and was sort of over the grief and all that. And then when I had a child, then I really had this longing, right, for my mother to be there. Fortunately, one of my mom's sisters, my auntie, Maria Esther, came over to Hawaii, where I was living at the time, to be there for the birth, which was amazing. And she was there for a few days, which was so supportive. And then, of course, after that, and she had to go back to her home, and I've got this little infant, and those are the times I think when I most miss my mom. Also, my sisters were away in different countries, so not having that familial support. Like when I see people that tell me, oh, my mom's watching my kid, and I'm like, you're so lucky. Because there is nothing like a relative that you love and trust looking after your little ones, right? So, and again, I think the thing, Delrisha, is that I don't feel at all like a victim ever. Like things that happened, I feel were part of the story of my life. And now I have really come to see that in one way or another, they were all gifts, and they were all things that contributed to who I am today. And I feel very grateful and content with how my life is going right now. So and this is what we do with coaching, as you know, right? We frame things in a way that whatever has happened can be seen as a strength. And it's not that we pretend, is that you find the way in which it is a strength. right?
That's right. That's right. And we're gonna get into that. So if you are listening to this, y'all about to get some tea on this coaching front. But before we go there, you had a really interesting pathway as a young adult. So you're navigating this childhood that's, you have all these cultural experiences from living in different places. You've experienced some significant loss, the loss of literally both of your biological parents. Um, and then it also sounds like you took on a caretaker role as the big sister and like guardian, if you will, of your younger sister who was still finishing high school.
For a little
Um,
while, yes.
for a little while, but that's important though. You were 18, 19.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
in some realities, that feels totally normal. This is what you do, right? But in other realities, it's like, but you're striving right now, and you have the responsibility of another life, right?
Right.
And that wasn't a part of the plan. So there's some stuff there, right? Just
Yeah.
around like having to be the responsible person for somebody.
Or
Um,
choosing, but like, yes, because I was there, right? I was the one that was there. And also, I mean, I love and adore my sister. And since we were little, I used to carry her around and call her my baby. So
yeah, yeah.
it was a
Yeah,
pleasure.
it's not to feel like work at all, right? And so, and I think, and it's particularly in a lot of communities of color, that is the inherent responsibility of the big sibling, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the role. Like I remember having to make sure we all got to the bus stop on time. It's picture day tomorrow. I'm braiding everybody hair. You know what I mean? But I was like in middle school, right? So
100%.
so just thinking about, and then to be a woman or a girl coming of
Yes.
age, there's a whole other layer of just that kind of homemaking responsibility as well that doesn't really get acknowledged, but it is a part of the dynamic.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and so I'm curious to know, how does somebody like you end up pivoting into this kind of sports world?
Mhm.
Talk to me about your career in
Yes.
sports. Y'all, Gilda's an Olympian. She went to the Olympics twice. And I'm trying to figure out how somebody with your kind of background ends up in that position.
Yeah.
So tell me where that started from. Where did that streak come from?
This is where my story is full of this like things that happened that seem to come out of the blue, and I believe they're like divinely guided and just like posts that show me this was the journey of my life. I It was coincidence that somebody who I knew was going to go whitewater rafting and decided not to go and asked me if I wanted to use his spot, and I went and got an opportunity to enjoy a rafting trip. And then the person who was in charge of the trip told the owner of the company that I was very talented and should be a guide. And so through that, I became a whitewater raft guide. I mean, a couple other things happened, but I started training and I decided that it was okay for me to do that. I had been raised with fear and a lot of respect of whitewater and rivers because they're dangerous. In Costa Rica, we have amazing rivers. So you're taught not to get in the water or get close to rivers. So I was countering even my upbringing when I decided to say yes to this opportunity that came to me. But I loved it. I had fun. Also, the other thing that happened was when I came back to Costa Rica when I was 19, Costa Rica is a wonderful country, beautiful people, and we do have machismo. And when I went back after having lived in Spain, which is much more liberal, and just having had my own experiences of growing up and sort of start to believe in myself, when I went back and I saw that girls were so like, oh, we can't do this because that should be a man doing that. And I was like, what? Are you not even going to try to lift that box? Because I think I can lift it. So when I became a raft guide, I was the first woman and the only one for a whole year because of that mentality of what women in Costa Rica saw themselves as capable of doing. And I saw Americans, Canadians, and European women doing it. I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So there's always been this sort of script in my head that if I see it, if I see somebody doing it, it's possible and I can do that. Like I didn't have a deficit self view, I think, at least not majorly. So from the rafting, again, another opportunity that came was the Olympics. In 1996, the Olympics, 1992 in Barcelona, they hadn't had whitewater slalom in the Olympics for 20 years. And in 92, they had it for the first time again. So they said any country that has a team can come. And I got the opportunity to be invited a month before the Olympics. I didn't have to qualify or earn it. I had started to kayak and I had become a class 4 kayaker. So I was fairly confident, but I had never competed in slalom. So I had 1 month to learn how to compete in an Olympic sport, which was
Woo.
crazy. But I did it because how would you say no to such an opportunity, right? When somebody
Yeah.
asks you, and I was like, okay, I'll go, and did it. And it was crazy. I have a little video in my website that tells that story, but it was, it was a combination of courage and feeling like I had to do it because it was in front of me, because the opportunity had been extended to me. And
Mm.
because I was the only woman of all Latin America that had this possibility, I thought I must do it. Even if I'm going to be not very good, there will be other people that will come later who will paddle better. And, but at least I'm showing girls in Latin America, we can do this. We can do this sport. We
Mm.
can do this kayaking thing. So
Mm.
that was how that came to be. And then from the 92 Olympics to the 96 Olympics, I won a scholarship that helped with through Olympic Solidarity, helped me pay for a coach for just a short time. It still didn't give me all the support that I needed to be as competitive as I wanted to be. But this time I was able to practice a little bit more. So I still was not by any means competitive in the high levels of the competition against people in the world who had been training for years and had coaches and clubs and paddles and boats. I had none of that. No funding, no support, nothing other than my will and belief that I could do it. So in the 96 Olympics, I tried really, really hard to earn my spot because I had to qualify. And in the competition where I had to qualify, I still didn't qualify, which
Mm.
means anybody would have been like brokenhearted and think that's the end. But I was still like, but I think I'm going. Somehow I believe I'm going. So the person who got the last spot before me, their country decided not to send them. And again, a month before the Olympics, I got the call. If you want to go, there's a spot for you. So
Wow.
I went and competed. And this time I had a goal, which was to make all of the gates. And it's a big, big river, the Ocoee River in Tennessee, and it's challenging and dangerous. My goal was to make the whole competition with all the gates, which I managed to do. So I felt proud. And it had been so scary because there's a big waterfall where people were getting really injured. I had been injured in there before, and I fell in it again during the Olympic competition, but I stuck with it and got out and did all of the gates. So, for me, it was a success. I was only like second to last or third to last this time, but I
Right.
still felt like, hey, I got what I came here for.
Yeah,
I
I
know you
think
were in
that's
the Olympics.
incredible. So there are a few things that stood out to me as you're telling this story. The first is um, you feeling like you carried the responsibility of being the first, right? Like I
Mhm.
don't know nothing about no Olympic nothing, but I'm gonna do this because I know other women need to see this, other Latino women need to see this, and even if I'm not the best, because I'm in this position, I'm going to pursue it, knowing that people are going to iterate and be better than me. But I have
Exactly.
to open the door. And I think
Yes.
that is so powerful because I think about hearing, we talk about like the pay gap that black and brown women end up taking on in this country in literally every single industry. We talk about, I mean, Taraji P. Henson, Monique have been talking about this for a very long time in
And then, like in
entertainment,
the sports, look at the women soccer, right? Like already super good, already super famous,
basketball,
and still not on par.
and not on par financially, right? And so just hearing you say like I knew that it was incumbent on me to do this because I have to kick the door in for other people behind
Right.
me. I don't really care that I'm going to win a gold in this. I don't care if I win a bronze. I just got to be here. So that's
Yes.
the first thing is just that internal responsibility that you felt for generations of women behind you. So kudos to you for that. And I just want to amplify that because I think that that's the role that a lot of women and minorities, people of color take on in their day-to-day work. We'll do things that are not in our job description. We'll take that extra mile to support that individual that we see because we know that it's bigger than us,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that's the first thing. Love that. And then the second thing that I'm thinking about is just your intention around getting the thing that you want to get done, right? So like you did it not once, but twice. And on both opportunities, you were just kind of like, okay, well, if it happens, it happens, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to
Yeah.
pursue it. And whatever comes of it is going to be what comes of it, but I'm going to pursue it. So I'm highlighting this, friends, because there's somebody who will listen to this after this has been live, who's been sitting on some idea, whether it's something they care strongly about or something they want to just toy with, right? Because all the time, you don't have to just go all the way in on something and be super passionate to try something. You could just try something as a hobby. You could try something for a new experience. And what you're demonstrating to us is that I didn't go into this thing being a super athletic person. I didn't go into this thing being a super knowledgeable person. I didn't go into this thing wanting to be the best at this. I went into this because this is where I was at the time. It was something I cared about at the time. It was something I wanted to have some exposure on at the time. And that was reason enough for me to do it. And as a result of that alone, I had a spot 2 times in the Olympics.
Right. And it took so much courage,
Wild.
Elrisha, because honestly, like the first Olympics, I flipped over and hit my head in the bottom of a concrete course. My helmet cracked. You know, I could have died. I could have drowned. Second time also. And not only the actual physical danger, but like imagine that I'm amongst the best people in the world who are looking at me like, what are you doing here? Right?
Right.
Because I didn't belong. So being the first and the only and being in a room where people may not be like, yay, she's here. Some people were supportive, but other people were like, you don't belong here. So how do we as women of color or anyone that steps into a place that has historically been that we have been underserved, how do we get that certainty? And I think that that's what I would love to inspire in people, that there is something in us. I think it is in all of us, that courage, that seed of power, of believe in ourselves that is there. And we may have stories on top, like debris and things people told us that make us think that we don't deserve or that we're less than. But that is like the dirt. If you clean it up, underneath is that gold of who we truly are, and
That's
that we
right.
are capable, and that we have what it takes and can gather the courage to walk through those doors. And when a door opens in front of you, how would we pass it by? Right? It's hard enough for a door to come and be in front of you. You want to walk
Right.
through it.
Yeah, no, I think that courage piece is huge because for so many of us, we've been in this society, we're not encouraged to have courage. Like we are in elementary school and it's like on the walls and like have courage, be brave, be powerful, like in that kind of like
And
we're trying to.
even that is new, right? Because before, women were not allowed to work, we're not allowed to study, we're not allowed to vote. So I like to see historically that we have been coming along, and then still the way we have to go, right? So now there are those signs that say have courage and do your best. And sometimes I think, again, education system, like they tell you what to do for all these years, and then they expect you to know what you want to do. You have
Mhm,
to start cultivating that from early on, to
mhm.
let a person get to know themselves,
That's
discover
right.
who they are, what moves them, what are they attracted to. That is the way to really have be in touch with that part I was talking about of who
That's
am
right.
I, what am I about, what is my life, what am I passionate about, what do I want to learn, what do I want
Mhm.
to try, like you said, hobby or whatever. And so when you have that explorer mentality, right, and let's just try things, then you can open up to opportunities. And there is help around us too. I think that, I don't want to just paint a picture of life is so hard and we've been marginalized, and that is true. And there have always been people like Harriet Tubman, whatever, all these amazing examples of people that have taken a difficult situation and used it as the springboard of their
Mhm.
expression in life, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. And from folks who are on here who want to know more about Hilda's story, I just dropped the video in the chat. Y'all can go ahead and bookmark that. That is her Olympic story, and it is just wow. My sister was training for the Olympics as well. She lost the last race. Just she's
Hmm.
a track athlete.
Wow.
She lost the last race before she would have been an Olympian.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but learned a lot, and it really does take and athlete's mentality to
Mhm.
persevere, to overcome, to try again. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And so now, even as we're talking about just where people find hope and inspiration and courage, you do a lot of that in your work. Now, I know in the DEI space. So before we get into what's
Mhm.
going on in the coaching space, I do just want to take a beat to talk about what's going on in DEI, okay?
Mhm.
Because the folks is out here rolling back the initiatives. The
Mhm.
people are getting pushed out. I haven't actually personally talked about my viewpoint on this whole thing, so I want to just take a minute to just talk about why DEI for you, and what is your opinion on just like the trajectory of the climate right now, where we're going with
Mhm.
this this very brash attack
Yeah.
on DEI? Like, where are we going after this?
Yeah. It's such a good question. When I started my journey in equity, diversity, and inclusion, the reason I also was more aligned with cultural agility was because my perspective came from all those cultures and changes that I had in my childhood, right? I was exposed to different cultures. I understood culture as a construct, right? As this thing that we float in, as the way that we do things. And that the more agile we can be, the better off things are going to work out for everyone. So when we get rigid, when we get tense, when we get righteous, there's going to be conflict, right? And sure enough, there are times when you need to put your foot down and demand something, right? Like the vote, etc., right? And my approach has always been one that's more I guess I'm going to use the word pacifist. In Costa Rica, we don't have an army. I personally really don't appreciate conflict or violence or, war or things like that. So, and I know that it's not like people like it, but they feel that it's the only way.
Mhm.
So, right now, the polarization and the equity, diversity, and inclusion field have been really, things got really strong after the murder of George Floyd, where a lot of people said, oh, yes, we really need to pay attention to this. We really need to do something. A lot of it was performative. Some of it was true intentions of doing a better job, organizations and people. And now things are going down, and the urgency kind of seems to have dissipated. And there's actually, like you said, an outright attack, right?
Mhm.
So I believe that whenever there's polarization, and this happens in the political field and in religious and ideas about gender, ideas about immigration, all kinds of places where things get tense and it's this or that, I believe that when we fall into that, we're in this trance of like survival, and we think that the other person is the enemy and what they want is so bad and we're right and they're wrong, and that is never going to lead to a solution. It doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
My approach has been always, can we listen to both sides and can we find some common ground? So I studied restorative justice and conflict resolution and nonviolent communication, etc. So this is what I have in my backpack and what I have in my being from the beginning. So my approach to cultural agility was, can we create spaces where we can hear each other and get the best of our thinking forward to find the solutions to the problems that we have, as
Mhm.
opposed to seeing each other as the problem. Here's two people that once they gain respect for each other can collectively or jointly look towards the problem and solve it from two different perspectives. Then we
Mhm.
have a better situation than when it was only one person trying to solve that problem, because we now have two different perspectives. I believe diversity is the richness of life. My business is called Celebrate Diversity because I think that's the gift that we have, the gift of life, the gift in nature, etc. Right? When we have more diversity, we are better off. We have better chances, more perspectives. So my sense of what's happening right now is that it's another chapter of the story, right? Of civil rights and human rights and many things that we've had to fight for and then get pushed back, and then we fight forward and push back. What I would love to see is, I believe that it's possible that when we stop feeling afraid, and I just wrote an article for Spirituality and Health called Remembering Love. I think that when we are able to operate from our prefrontal cortex and from our heart, the best of what we have can come forward, and we can, like I said, find solutions to the problems, and having respect and understanding for people that are different from us. So fear is what makes us not want to talk to people who are different from us. And then we start to see them as the enemy. Right. But I don't think that's the reality. I think that's the trance that gets pumped up by media and news and politicians, etc. So each one of us needs to reclaim our own truth, needs to remember who we are, remember what we came here for, and then we can act from a different place. And I know that may sound airy-fairy, but it's not. It's something that can be done every day by everybody. And so when I do my cultural agility work, that's the framework. It's inviting people to create a space where they are safe, they are okay, they will be heard, they will not be judged, and we can talk about some topics and hopefully move our understanding forward towards the goal that we all share.
That's right. Yeah, I love that so much, and I think the key word there is remembering. And I think we've been so disconnected from our truth, our history, who we are, our historical lineage, our ancestral lineage, that it is hard to remember because we've been strategically removed from essence of who we are, right? So it's like, wait, do I care about that? Right? Or like, why am I so angry all the time? Or why do I feel so strongly when this person tells me Black Lives Matter? Why am I why is that evoking this strong emotion? Right. And so I think that whole essence of like remembering is important because we didn't just get this way. Like we have been participating in a system, whether we have been controlling the system or recipients of the information that moves through that system, be it media, politics, whatever, that how we are conducting ourselves now is really a byproduct of a maladjusted system, right? Exactly. And so like you almost have to pseudo analyze yourself to be like, oh wait, this is not me.
That's it. And it's actually the awareness is the first step, right? And the self-love. So I can forgive why I was angry. I can understand why I got triggered. I can understand why this reaction or that one or that person but we have to start there with that analysis of ourselves and that understanding and that forgiveness, and then extend that to others. And then we can create. I mean, I see it happening. That's the beauty. I don't think it's all bad. And one day the dream will come true. I see the dream already starting to pop up in places, in communities, in organizations, in people. So the more we recognize that that's already happening and that that's a choice, the closer we get. And then things happen exponentially right now, right? Like with the internet, all of a sudden you can find out that thousands of people around the world are thinking what you're thinking, and you resonate, and then you come together, and there's all of a sudden a powerful network of people that feel like you, that it is possible to create a beautiful world for all of us.
Right.
I'm hopeful.
That so much. Love that so much. If you're just joining us, welcome. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing now. So DEI is still the nut and bolts of your business. You have some new stuff that you're rolling out this year.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So my equity, diversity, inclusion, cultural agility business, I started in 2016 in Oregon, was successful with that, well received, love it. I still go back. I now live in Massachusetts, but I still go back to Oregon often, like 3-4 times a year. And I love the work I do. I have worked with leaders, including law enforcement and health and education and all different areas. And my heart is very close to that work because of this love for peace and understanding, But what is new is my business coaching certification, which really seemed to me to complement perfectly the work that I have done, because marginalization wasn't just access to jobs, access to medicine, but also financial, right? People have been kept from advancing. And so when we can help women and entrepreneurs and anybody that has experienced marginalization who wants to go get forward in life, and we can help them with the tools to improve their business and to be more successful, and not just in the strategy and the money, but in how they feel about it and how they can believe and nurture that self-belief and that, that positive approach of it's totally okay for you to go for what you want and exactly what you want in the way that you want, right? Then that just fits. So I've added this whole other business coaching to my cultural agility business. And for me, as I look back in my life, and I just had a birthday, turned 57. So I'm like, okay, from here, I know what I want to do is really enjoy every minute of life. I believe that I was gifted with a positive outlook and a happy sort of demeanor. But now I'm leaning strongly towards that. I am like, let's be in the joy, because I think that remembering love is possible when we are in joy. It's harder when you're in emergency situation, survival mode, or fear, right? Because you just don't think it's possible. But when you're leaning towards the joy and you do that consciously, then opportunities open up. And I want to inspire, I want to live that kind of life, and I want to inspire people and help them see this is absolutely possible. So I'm offering the retreats, and the possibility of do business coaching as part of the retreat and after the retreat. But the retreat in itself is something that to me encapsulates, the intentionality of bringing a small group of women together, or entrepreneurs or leaders, and to put your heads together and to give yourself the time and perspective, being away from your home and away from your everyday work, to say, okay, what is it that I really truly want to do right now? And so we drop into that truth, and then with the support, be able to come up with some strategies and some steps, and then launch after the retreat. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I have the possible support if I need it afterwards. So
how many days is this retreat?
Well, the one I have coming up right now, March 13th to the 20th, it's 8 days. And there's going to be 8 women. And the number 8, I found out after I started planning all this year being 2024, is the number 8. Actually, is so amazing how symbolic it is. It has to do with prosperity, abundance, up leveling. Like all the intentions I have for this retreat are reflected by the number 8 when I looked up the numerology. I didn't know that before, but it's really cool. And so I feel that there's also an element of being bold, stepping into something because it's happening soon. And just when you make the decision to do something for you, like when you invest in yourself, like we did through the coaching certification, or when you say, I am going to do this because this is an important piece in my life, that changes the whole dynamic, changes how you see yourself, changes how you live your life. It changes the message that you're sending out to the universe. So I'm excited to ignite that, that spark in people. And of course, to go and enjoy together.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful. I mean, listen, I tell folks. So first of all, the number 8 is a lucky number in Japan. So in Japanese culture,
China as well. Yes.
and in China, it's considered a lucky number. And then you also have, we're in 2024, which is the number 8 this year.
Yes. Yes.
You add 2 plus 2,
Time.
4. And it also represents change, prosperity. So this is a really good time for those who have never been on a retreat. I went to a retreat literally last weekend in Joshua
Nice.
Tree. I went to a treat last weekend in Joshua Tree. Shout out to Shanice for hosting the retreat. Her whole thing is about designing Black experiences using like design thinking. And
Yes.
so we stayed in a beautiful home in Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree is supposed to be, they say the veil is thinner between this reality and the spiritual world
Yes.
in Joshua Tree. So there's all this like healing energy. Like people are just really into spirituality there. So we go there. We had a chef cook for us every day, delicious food. I had dietary restrictions and was only eating vegan at the time. And I was impressed with the quality of meals that we received. Do you
Yes.
hear me? We got up and you walk outside and it was picturesque. It was beautiful. So even if you didn't have anything planned for the morning, the clarity that you got from being in that environment was
Exactly.
incredible. We had some programming that helped us think about where we were with ourselves and where we were with where we wanted to go
Yes.
and how we plan to get there through a series of structured exercises. So you had tools that you can take home with you. The people that came with this very small retreat, same number, about 8 or 9, I think it was about 8 of
Yes.
us on this retreat. We got to connect deeply and meaningfully. Most of us did not know anybody on that retreat. And so for some folks that were in the room, this retreat itself was just a risk that they were taking because they were looking for that kind of personal transformation.
Yes.
Um, and so when I tell you we had a sound bath bowl, sound bath
Yes. Yes. Yes.
experience, you know what I'm saying? Like every form of every area of this retreat was considered with so much intention. And it made me feel like, hey, not only am I in a community with people that I can see myself connecting with outside of this experience, but it's also giving me the opportunity to experience peace. You're almost
Yeah.
like buying into peace for a period of time, right? And we forget, you know, how unattainable sometimes peace can be in the day-to-day rat race. And so I'm saying all this to say, y'all, if you have never been on a retreat before with a small community of like-minded individuals, it is absolutely worth the experience. And if you're thinking to yourself, you know, I can't see myself getting to Costa Rica, like I don't really know if I'm a jive well with folks. I don't do stuff with people that I don't know.
Yes.
I would encourage you to actually lean into the opposite way of thinking, right? That like maybe these are the people I'm supposed to be meeting, right?
100%. This is
Maybe
exactly the
I'm
thinking.
supposed to be it.
Yes, yes. And that is that leap of faith that we talked about, that step towards something that's unknown, but somehow you feel in your heart, there's something here for me. I'm curious about this. Something resonates. Something's,
That's how I met you.
yes, exactly, exactly. And Costa Rica, I have this picture here. It's like, it's all about abundance. It is diverse and beautiful and generous and gorgeous. And we're staying, like you described, we're in a beautiful place overlooking the ocean, infinity pool. It's all about expansion and up leveling. So the theme of self care, nourishing yourself, filling up your cup, and then going from there is exactly, it's intentional, right? The way that it's designed, we are going to have a massage included for each person, and all the meals, like you said, chef, transportation, everything is provided, so that you can really just kind of like lean back and let life take care of you and discover what's inside you, right? So then you have that ability to see your life with perspective, which doesn't happen when we're in our home every day or at our work, right? So it's a gift that you give yourself, but it's also a stretch. And I'm aware of that, right? It's a stretch for everyone, but this is what's happening right now. This is not the time to be asleep anymore. The world really needs us switched on, awake, aware, and ready to go. So my invitation is, come here, let us take care of you and see what is in you that's ready to be birthed, right? That's ready to pop, and let us help you do that in a good way, in a strategic way. Exciting.
And so I just dropped in the chat for those who are on here now. If you are interested, there is a link in the comments that you can click on to access the details of this retreat. And I'm gonna go ahead and make sure if you're interested, how can people find you to get in touch to sign up for this retreat?
Yes, yes. So if you go to my website is coming, but it's not ready yet. So what I have right now is Google Docs. So if you go to bit.ly/joyful retreats, maybe you can put that in the chat as well.
Yeah.
bit.ly/joyful retreats. I've also just started a Facebook page that's called Joyful Retreats, and I will have all the information there as well. And I'm on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, my name Gilda Montenegro-Fix. Those are probably the easiest ways to find me. And I am super excited to welcome. I know I'm also going to say that it is 8 particular women. Some are already signed up and some are about to hear and sign up. This is like a call to those of you that feel this is for me, and then just follow that, right? Don't hesitate. I am happy to have a conversation and reassure or ask or figure out with you if this is for you. But I believe that the 8 women that are meant to be there are going to hear the call. And that's what's so exciting, to be part of something that feels energetically meant to be.
Yeah, and that resonates, and I would just echo that. You don't know what's going to happen when you have these kinds of experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you go on a retreat. Like I didn't know what I was going to expect when I went, to the ROI conference last year. No clue. I didn't know anybody. I saw Rachel on a podcast, it's her conference. I saw her on a podcast weeks before ROI.
Right.
And something in me was just like, should I go? Should I go? Should I go? Should I go? And for me, I had never spent that much money. The ticket to attend was over $2,000.
Right.
I had never spent that kind of money to attend anybody's anything out of my
Yep.
own pocket, right? And so for me, it was like, do I want to do this? And I remember talking to one of my homegirls who does all these solo trips, and she has friends globally, and she travels to another country for her birthday every year. I remember talking to her and being like, should I do it? I don't know. I'm apprehensive, just doing the back and forth thing. And she said, you know what, Dale, everything that I've ever done, it's been because I have felt called to do it. So if
Yes.
you're having this conversation with several people, then that's your calling,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
And I really loved and appreciated hearing that. And I hear her voice a lot when I'm at that crossroads thinking about investing in myself at a high level. I'll think like, is this something that I feel like I should have, or is this something that I'm feeling called to do?
Exactly.
And if I feel called to do it, then for me, that's enough justification.
100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for you and the 8 women that will join you in
Yes.
Costa Rica to
Yes.
experience
I
the
wish you could come.
I do too. But definitely, this year we're gonna connect on some other stuff, and
Yes.
I'll be at the
Yes.
next one for sure.
Yes. Yes.
What do you want to leave people with? Like when you think about
Mm.
this life that you've been able to manifest, that you've been able to design, what do
Yes.
you want people when you die? What are people gonna say about you at your funeral? Right? What do you want to leave? What's the impression you want to leave with folks?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling a lot of gratitude right now towards you, towards this opportunity, as I said before, to the support that I receive from the universe and family and friends. I want people to know that we are held and that it is okay for us to be courageous and to believe in ourselves. That's my biggest thing is like, I want people to feel empowered to know that what they do in life makes a difference, that they are making an impact and that they are an important part of humanity. Each one of us is a light that we cannot do without. So
Mm,
believe in that light and follow and let it shine bright because you're here because you're needed.
mm.
That's my thing. It's like
And
just
what would
love
you say to
yourself and
somebody?
believe.
And what would you say to somebody who's sitting at the margins? Like maybe they have taken a leap of faith. Maybe that imposter syndrome is coming up. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, I don't
Yeah.
feel good enough. I don't feel qualified. I don't know. You've
Yeah.
pivoted a lot. You've transitioned a lot. You've built a lot of opportunity for yourself. Some people will look at you and be like, "But that's just Hilda. She knows how to
Right.
do that,
Right.
right?
Right.
She's been
Yes.
doing it for a while, right? That's just her. It won't work for me, right?"
Yeah.
What do you say to that person who's like, I'm ready to take that jump, or I'm ready to try something new, or maybe I've already taken the leap, but I don't trust my ability to get to where I'm going? What do you
Yeah.
say to that individual?
So, two things. One, that I still get nervous about silly little things, right? So, I'm not Wonder Woman yet, or like I'd never have a problem. You would not believe after I've done the Olympics, after I've done kayaking over steep waterfalls and run class 5 rivers, sometimes I get afraid to post a video to share what I'm doing. It's ridiculous, but it's true. So, we all have our moments in our areas where we are strong and areas where we are maybe more timid or not as sure. Um, what I'm going to say is take baby steps. Take baby steps and ask for help if you need help. I just had a big lesson on that. I was trying to do my website. That's why it's not ready. I was trying to do it all myself. And that's not my strength. I
Mm-hmm.
drove myself crazy, ended up crying. It was great though, because I got to release some stuff that needed to come out. And now I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to hire somebody to help me do that website because that's their strength. I have the
Right.
idea, I have the genius, I have all this material and photos, but I'm not the one that does all the templates and back of house work on that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
ask for help, believe in yourself, and take little steps.
Love that. Everybody, this is Gilda Montenegro-Fix. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for your story. Thank you for sharing, for stopping by today on this beautiful Sunday. It's raining here in LA. It's Grammy weekend. So I'm here in Los Angeles, and just really grateful for the opportunity to invite you to the platform to share more. I believe that everybody that's on this call, whether one of us asked them to be here or they organically found this conversation. I think that the message and the lessons that were shared in today's conversation was epic. So thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so much.
all of our listeners, thank you. And we will be in touch. Bye, everybody.